Alright, so I've got my file set up here, much the same as you guys might. I've got a character. All the animation is in this movie clip, and I've called it The Name, like I asked you guys to, so mine I called him The Dude. And if I double click on him, that's where all of his animation is, right? The different sections. I just wrote in run, jump, taunt, and hit rather than animate something. Um, so I could at least test to see if the code was working. So I'll know if it pulls this up or this up or this up because the words will come up. Um, Now, one key thing before we add the code in is that you want to double check, if we bring up our properties tab, that each of these flags is named properly. Still end, run, run end. I mean, you can actually see the first ones, you just can't see the end ones unless you click on them. The only letter that should be a capital is the E in end, and there should be no spaces. This is really important. I'm going to name one of them incorrectly on purpose so that you guys can see what that error looks like. And then I can show you how to troubleshoot that. 'Cause Flash does a pretty decent job of telling you like what's wrong. Alright, so we make sure we name everything properly, and you actually don't need to have your character in here. You just want them in the library. The code is going to like pull them and stick them in here somewhere. And the last thing we want to make sure of is I really don't have anything else here. You could have your background here, obviously. I don't have a background yet. But we need one layer that's going to be just for the action scripting, right? That's the only one thing we want to put on that layer. You know, your background can be on this layer. Beneath it, here I'll put some kind of like light background. There we go. Right? That's a hideous color. um, but you want to make sure that you know, the character is not in there except when you've you just want them to be in your library. These are ugly, ugly colors. There we go. And you, there we go. And you want them named this way, the capital letter for whatever the name is, because we're going to do a find and replace on the name so we can get it to find it in the code, because the code is rather long. I'm going to go over what parts of this mean what at the end, so in case you're interested at all in what's going on, you can you know, kind of make changes or at least know what's happening. But I'll save that for the end. So you've got this Word file, and you're going to copy it, copy the whole thing. There we go. Copy. I'm going to go to this script layer here. I'm going to go Window, Actions. This is where we're going to paste it. Paste. It should have about 211 lines. Should be where that ends up. Let me double check the top. Yeah. So you should have 211 lines. If you don't, then you may want to make sure you copied everything. Now, before we test this, gotta do a couple things. One is that in your library, we have to do something to this movie clip to make it more code friendly. We have to make a new class if you're interested in that sort of thing. But you're gonna actually right click on it. You're gonna say properties. And right now I have him called the dude, and he's a movie clip. It probably looks like this when you do this actually. And we need to twirl down this little advanced tab right here, because we need to say export for action scripting. And under class, we're going to call it, right? So my name is the dude, but the class we actually want to call dude MC. So dude still has a capital D, and then there's a capital M, capital C. So whatever your name is, whether it's, you know, dog, cat, penguin, capital letter for that name, matching the name that's over here, and then a capital MC at the end of it, right? And we hit OK. It's going to tell you this, right? A definition of this class cannot be found, so one's going to be created. That's what you actually want Flash to do, is that there is a thing that isn't there yet, and they're going to make a new one. So you hit OK. And now what it should say over here is, right, the name, and then name MC. it calls that under linkage. And you can see here that my little button and background music that I've had also have some class information on them. So yeah, for code purposes, we need to have that little extra thing in there. I'm going to bring up Actions window again. There we go. And now what I have to do is I have to change one of the words in here, because the code I originally wrote was called alien because it was written for this alien. But you guys all have different names, right? You have the dog, the cat, the vegetable, the whatever. So we need to change the word alien to whatever your name is. And this is why I called it, you can see here it's called the alien and then alien MC. That way, if we just change the word alien to dude, it'll change it for all of the things that we need to. So we go up here, the second icon over is called find. You click on that. In this drop down box, instead of find, you say find and replace. And this is case sensitive, but I'm going to type in the word alien with a capital A. So we're going to find the word alien. Not the alien, not alien MC, just alien. And we're going to replace it with dude. That's in my case. Obviously, you guys would replace it with whatever yours is called. And you say replace all. And that's it. Unfortunately, it no longer gives you like a little thing that says how many it changed. But as you scroll through, you should notice that, especially under the top part, that's where you see most of mentions of the character. It should say the dude now, or whatever yours is called, instead of alien. Alright, so now remember, I broke this on purpose so we can see what happens. So I'm going to hit Control Enter, and nothing happens. It places the character in the scene, hooray, but it doesn't, there's no animation. It can't play the animation. Why? Well, because it got an error. Argument error, frame label, hit end, not found in scene. Anytime it says error frame label, what it's talking about is all of its play commands are looking through your timeline, right? This timeline right here, and it's not finding anything called hit end with a capital E, because I spelled this wrong, right? So this is the error you're going to get if one of your labels is wrong. It'll literally say frame label, blah, 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 not found. So you go to where it's, this frame label is listed in your timeline, and you click on it, and you look on properties, and you go, oh, I spelled it wrong, or oh, I forgot a capital letter. It's going to tell you specifically what's missing. So if I fix that, hit Control Enter. Hopefully I don't get any other error messages. All right, and there we have it. So now the code is playing my character, right? That's the still position because I'm not doing anything. Now, to move him, it's left and right on the arrow keys. I'll show you how to change these later if you hate left and right on the arrow keys. Right? So the code is telling it to play the walk thing when it needs to, right? And then it'll stop if I stop pressing on a key. That's actually two separate things, pressing a key and letting go of a key. All right? If I hit the up key, that's jump. And I know it's pulling my jump animation because the word jump shows up here. Right? It shows up right up here because I didn't put any jump animation on him yet. The actual upward motion, this vertical motion, that is coming from the code, as is the lateral motion. It's coming from here. I will show you how to change that if you hate it and want it faster or slower. The other two buttons are A is the hit button and L is the wave. Now, it's not going to be working quite properly yet. What do I mean? Well, I said I want the wave to be something continuous. Well, it plays through once. Wait, let me put it the other direction. There we go. You can see I put those little numbers there so that we could know. But then it stops because it runs out of space, right? If I go to my timeline back here, you can see I've got my wave. These are my 1, 2, 3, 4s, so we could count how long it's going. And I mean, the solution is not to make this longer, because if you make it longer, let me get rid of this because you guys don't have that yet. If we make it longer, then, I mean, someone's just going to press the button even longer, and that's more frames to load, and we don't want that. We actually don't want it to be very long. We want it to loop. We need it to loop within here, right? So we're going to write the world's tiniest bit of action scripting, and it's going to be right in here. It's not going to be in the big thing, so you don't have to worry about that. But you're going to go to, let's see if I can make this a little bigger. There we go. So people can see. Can I make them any taller? Nope. That's unfortunate. But this is my wave section, and you've got the flag for wave end. I want you to, on the labels layer, go backwards by 1 frame, right? So you're basically sitting on that useless rectangle that does not do anything except show you you're at the end of a section. And you're going to hit F6, right? We want to make a keyframe because we need this little spot of code that we're writing to only exist at the end. If we didn't make a keyframe, it would just exist during the whole time and it wouldn't play the animation. All right, so we're going to go to Window, Actions, because we want to bring up our Actions window. And you can see it lists this over here. This is where your other script exists, so don't click on that because you'll just go back to that frame. All right, so we're going to write in go to and play, whoops, capital letters matter, no spaces matters, parentheses, quotation, and then wave, end quotation, end parentheses, semicolon. All right, so go to and play with the A being capital and the P being capital. That's like a command in Flash. It's a like pre-written thing. Let me get rid of this. That already exists and it knows how to call it up. And then wave, when you put something in quotation marks like this, it means look for a label. So within this timeline, we are telling it that when it gets to the end here, if it still needs to go, it's going to come back here, go to and play this frame, and it's going to go this, and then when it gets here, it's going to jump back here, and it's just going to, loop ad infinitum if someone holds down the button long enough. The semicolon is not the most necessary thing. It's just like if you had something after it, you would want a semicolon there, because semicolon in code is sort of like a end of this thought, start next thought kind of thing. So now, if we hit, there we go, jump, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, let's not put that backwards so we can actually read it. There we go. So now I've got that loop in there, and I can loop that forever. Meanwhile, the hit will only be as long as it needs to be. Now, some things work pretty well together. For example, my jump, I can jump in midair, and then he'll go back to walking pretty much right away. If you find that he's in the air and then he doesn't start walking for a while, it means that your jump section, let me get rid of this, is a little bit too long, and you can take a few frames out of it. Shift F5 will get rid of them. Make sure you have the whole timeline, right? Because you don't want him to be in the middle of his jump still before he hits the ground. All right. And also, there is a little bit of a problem where if he's in the middle of walking and you press the hit button, you see he just slides while he's hitting. That would require more complex code than like we have time for. So don't worry about that. That's not you. That's the simplicity of what we're working with. All right, so that should hopefully give you a better idea of what your animation is doing. Now, a couple of things. One, remember, you didn't want to have any lateral motion in your run or any, vertical motion in your jump. You control those in the code. Well, what if you want to change them? So there's a few things I'm going to show you how to change in the code so that you can kind of tinker with them. And we're going to start up at the top here, and I'm going to give us some space, and I wish I could make this bigger, but I don't think I can. So I'm actually going to show it to you in the Word document. Right? This very top part, very top line, ground position equals 400. What that's saying is how high off the ground do you want this thing to show up? Right now, my guy is hovering relatively high. Not too high. Maybe a third of the way up. So you want to change that if you want to change how high up he is. I believe A higher number is, yeah, it's going to be higher, and a lower number is going to be lower, I think. But you can change that, and it'll change his ground position. There's a little bit of the way down, the dude.x equals 500. That's his x position, left and right. So right now he's kind of centered-ish. If you want him off to one side or the other, you just got to go higher number, lower number. But this whole top part, this whole, loop, go to and stop, loop run, add frame script. This whole first section is dictating how it runs through your timeline. You can see all the labels here: still, run, run, still, run. It goes back and forth between run, still, and eventually it defines wave, hit, etc. Right? So those are all of the various timeline related things. Towards the bottom of the timeline related things, you have something here called alien.gravity equals 10. Gravity is how fast they're going to jump off the ground, actually. So let me go into here, because I'm going to start changing things. Right, and you can see there's lots of color coding to kind of help you find your way. So I'm going to change his ground position to 200 just to kind of lower him a little bit. And I'll change his X position. Instead of 500, I'll make that 100. Now I'm just making them really extreme so you can kind of see them. Right, so if I run that, all right, I was backwards. This is 0, 0. So you want a higher number if you want the character lower. My bad. Let's see. 700, there we go. All right, so we're not going to mess around with any of the timeline stuff. If I want gravity to work a little bit differently, I can turn gravity up to 20. That's a pretty big change. He's too high, or he's too low now. But he's not going to jump as high as he did. Let me fix where he is. That's a terrible idea. Come on. Move up. There we go. Put him back to 500. Okay, that's more helpful. Right? The higher I turn up gravity, the heavier he's going to be. I'm going to change this to something really silly, really high, just to... Oh, this is tied in with another number. I'm sorry, this is not the number you would change. I'm going to change that back to 10. All the way towards the bottom. There we go. All right. So if gravity is set to 10, then how quickly do you want it to get back to 10 when you turn it off? And then this is the number you change. And I believe I'm going to change it to something ridiculous just to... Yeah, see? If I change it really high, gravity turns right back on. Like, he can't really jump that high. If I turn it really low, this bottom number, this plus equals, we're all the way at the bottom, by the way. And we're going to change it to 1. What's going to happen is he's going to go flying. And eventually there we go. He'll eventually come back down. So, that's silly. Yeah, so if you want him to look like he's kind of walking on the moon, maybe plus equals 3. Yeah, that's pretty bouncy. There. If you want him to be a little bit heavier, like maybe, I don't know, you've got some kind of heavy character that you want to land with a thud. There we go. So somewhere between 3 and 7 are some decent numbers, because if you go any higher or lower, obviously things start to get a little crazy. This is at the very bottom. You can see this whole bottom section right here is dealing with gravity. In case you wanted to know, what it's saying is basically if he is at all above the ground position, then you need to put him back down there, and doing so by turning the gravity back on slowly. So that's how basically gravity lets go in an instant, and then it pulls him back down a little bit more quickly each time, which is exactly how gravity actually works. It's an acceleration. All right, so this whole top part is dealing with the timeline. Don't want to mess with that except for where you place him. I'm going to change this actually away from 100 because 100 is too far to the edge. There we go. This next section, and you can see these gray paragraphs here, they're what's called commenting. They're not actually part of the code. They're just there to tell you this section creates the variables for button pushes. This is where you choose which buttons you're going to use. So right now I have left and right. For moving to left and right, I really wouldn't change that if I was you, because that's what makes sense. And then up for jump. So you hit up on the keyboard and you can jump. And I have A and L for the hit and the wave. Those are the ones that people are most likely to change. And I just realized I have them backwards from each other in these lists. That doesn't matter. But that's the ones where if you want the hit to be the down button and the wave to be the space bar, you would change this to down, and you change the L to space, and you would just have to make sure that you did that on both of them. Down. So left, right, up, down, space are... Oh, I got rid of my bracket. That's no good. See, this is what you have to be careful of. Accidentally getting rid of stuff that you don't want to. Those are just spelled out. Letters are just the letters. They're in capitals. You'll notice all these capital letters matter. And you'll notice that some of them are not listed in the bottom. The hit isn't listed. We're telling on the top for Flash to look at keys being pressed down. And then on some of them, like continuous motions, I have to tell them to look at when the keys are released. Alright, so the next section is defining what the actual actions are, in case you're interested. So moving left. Oh, yeah, this is where we want to change things if you want them to jump faster or slower. I'm sorry, move faster or slower. Obviously, the jumping is with gravity. So you got move left and move right. And at the top of each section, you can see player.x minus equals 5. Player.x plus equals 5. So this 5 is basically the speed. So if you want them to move at a different speed, I'm going to change these to 8. And again, small changes in these numbers make a big difference. But this is going to move them faster. Like, that's way too fast for this lumbering goof. But for some of your characters, that might actually be the correct speed. If I turn the number down, he will slow down. Some of you may have made your character going in the opposite direction. My character faces left by default. If your character faces right by default, then what's probably happening is he's moving backwards. If he's moving backwards, then all you have to do is change that minus to a plus and change that plus to a minus. And my character will now move backwards. Oh no, I'm sorry. That made him move backwards based on my keys. That is incorrect. I apologize. This is what you move backwards. Player scale, when he's moving to the left, he's moving in negative numbers, but I have his scale at 1 because that's what he looks like. And then when he's moving to the right, I have his scale at -1. This is what you change to have him look like he's facing the other direction. So we say, we put the -1 on the move left. There we go. So now he's walking backwards. Because for any of you who has a character facing in the right direction, his scale when he's at the right should be +1, and then his scale when he's moving left should be -1. I'm sorry I said that backwards earlier. That was my mistake. By the way, another way to change your gravity is in this jump definition. You can turn, right now I have it set to going to -50. I can set it to a higher or lower negative number, and they'll jump a little bit higher or a little bit lower. They'll still accelerate back down at the same speed because of the number you have at the bottom. This is where we define the wave and the hit and how to stop moving. I wouldn't mess with those because there's nothing in there. And then there's event listeners, because in code you have to tell the program to actually look for key presses, believe it or not. And then that's actually what this whole section is. And there's a couple things in here about looping the game. So really the key things you would want to change are at the very top, initial position, both for the y-axis here and the x-axis here. excuse me, you can scroll down, you can change which keys do what, and you can change the speed of the walk under the functions for move left and move right. You can change how high they jump under the function for jump. But remember, that number is combined with all the way at the bottom, player's gravity plus equals 5. So you can turn one number up and turn the other number down and come up with the exact same look, because these two things are interacting with each other. All right, so, and also remember that when we get to class the week this is due, the first hour is going to be for troubleshooting little stuff. So if you're not comfortable, changing the speed, like if you got it working and it's all fine and you're not comfortable going in here to change the speed or where they show up, that's what that time in class is for. If you're having trouble getting it to work at all, please email me the file because, or at least tell me what your error is, because Flash is usually very good about saying what is going wrong with the, with the script. And I should be able to troubleshoot it pretty quickly because it's going to be hard for you to polish your animation if you can't actually see anything moving. For example, if I get rid of this bracket, one bracket, nothing works. The good news is it actually says syntax error, expecting right brace before end of program. Unfortunately, this is one that actually doesn't say where the error is. Sometimes it does. No, I can't even remember where I put it. I believe it's... Nope. There it is. There we go. So all it takes is one missing bracket or parentheses to completely mess up everything. So, like I said, if you are just wanting to change a few little things and you're not comfortable doing that, you can wait till class or email me, either way, and we can get that taken care of. But if you're actually having a technical problem, it's not working, please let me know, and we can get it fixed as soon as possible.